to talk about the diminished scale or the half-whole scale. So a diminished scale can be used on a diminished chord or a dominant chord. In this case, I'm going to talk of the scale that we use over a dominant chord, so like a 13 flat 9 chord. So it's a scale that consists of half steps and whole steps, starting with a half step, alternating half, whole, half, etc. So I'm going to give you some ideas on how to use, or some licks that you can use over this sound. And also I want you to look at this scale in a different way. So instead of thinking of it as a scale, you could also think of it as two diminished chords, because the scale consists of 8 notes, which means that you have 2 4-note chords. So the first one would be this one, which you could call an F diminished or a B diminished or a D diminished or an A flat diminished. It's all the same, right? Because it's symmetrical. So if I put that over a G, we get a flat 7, a third, a fifth, and a flat 9. This is what you could call the traditional diminished sound, right? We hear in classical music. Or in early jazz and stuff like that. Even sometimes in pop music. If I want to add extensions to this chord, I have to use the other 4 notes, which also create a diminished chord. So let's call this the extension note diminished chord, which would be G, C sharp, E, and B flat. So you have the root, the sharp 11, the 13, and the sharp 9. So if you want to create a more modern sounding voicing, you would use any of those notes from that diminished chord. So like a 13 flat 9, or even 13 sharp 9. I hear George Benson play that chord. So that creates a more modern sound, right? So let's look at some licks that you can use over this sound. This first one here, example 1, is each of the note of the first voicing, but you target it from the second voicing. So that's the chord we're going for, or the notes. And then I just land on the G. So let's see what that sounds like over a backing track here. Obviously you could keep going, right? You could also move that idea in other intervals because of the diminished or the symmetrical nature of this scale. So there, instead of moving the idea in thirds, I moved it in tritones. You could get more adventurous, but let's move on to the next lick. This one, you start on a note from the first chord, the diminished chord, the chord tone, and then you go up a fourth, and then you get one of the extension notes. Then you play the next note of the chord tone, which is D, and a fourth, and so on. Very modern sound, right? So let's listen to that. I think it's a good idea to make a backing track where you, with just a vamp like that, where you just play that sound over and over to get it into your ears. It's a little bit of a, you need to get used to that sound if you haven't practiced the diminished sound. Okay, so next one, we'll also targeting a chord tone, but with a chromatic approach. And then I play a note a third up, and then I keep going like that. Very, very common phrase, very bebopy sounding, right? So you have to be a little bit careful because it's very cliche, right? But you need to know these phrases, I think. So I'll play this one for you. So now let's move on to the fourth example, which is my favorite diminished lick. Very modern sounding, so these are actually triplets. So it's an 8-note idea, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but played as triplets, which is kind of modern sounding, I guess. Let's see what it sounds like. So what I like to do is I like to start on the beat 4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three, go. Alright, so I hope you like these licks, and don't forget to download the PDF. There's a PDF with all of the transcriptions and tabs. So I'll see you next time.